Today we're gonna make some low-carb lasagna. You know you like it. I'm gonna use zucchinis instead of pasta. So what I've done is I use my handy mandolin here, and I have sliced my zucchini semi-thick, and I have laid it on a sheet with a rack underneath, and I have sprinkled it with salt on top, if you can see that. The salt's gonna draw out all the moisture, well, not all of it, most of the moisture out of the zucchini to make it more pliable for us to use in our lasagna. We have left our zucchini sitting here with the salt on top of our rack, on top of the sheet pan I have left it on here for about an hour, and as you can tell, there's a lot of moisture going on already that's been drawn out of the zucchini, and that's kind of what you want. You're kind of dehydrating the zucchini, so if you can see that dripping there, that's what you want. So now we're going to continue with the rest of our recipe. I'm going to use some ricotta cheese, mozzarella, fresh mozzarella, and some whole milk shredded mozzarella, as well as some tomato basil, already pre-made sauce. I also have half a pound of ground beef here. You can use ground turkey, ground chicken, whichever you like. And I'm going to use half an onion, and I'm out of garlic, so I'm going to just use a little bit of garlic powder to season our meat when we cook it. And I'm also going to use 1 egg and a few stems of parsley. I'll let you know how much parsley when we get to it. Okay, I'm going to start heating my pot with some olive oil. I have extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to go ahead, not extra virgin olive oil. I added, this is about 2 tablespoons of olive oil to my pan. I'm going to let it heat. While I do that, I'm going to dice my onion, and I'm going to try to go for a very fine dice. I don't want big chunks of onion in my sauce. If you like big chunks of onion, by all means, dice it whichever way you like, but I don't. I like fine dicing my onion for my sauces, so I'm going to do that. I had already sliced the onion since I had it in half moons, so I'm just dicing it now. And that should be well diced. Scooper. If you don't have a bench scraper, get one. They're very, well, you don't have to get one, but they're very convenient. So do you hear that sizzle? That means our oil was really, not really hot, but it was hot enough to get us going here. So I'm gonna sweat my onions. Sweating it means that you're not caramelizing them. You're just getting them to get to a translucent base. And then once that happens, we'll go ahead and add our ground beef to it, or whichever ground protein you want to add to your sauce. This is very keto friendly. So if you're on a keto diet, a low carb diet, this works very well for you as well. If you had bariatric surgery and you're craving that Italian cooking, that pasta, and you know you shouldn't have pasta, like I can't have pasta, the zucchini actually is a very good replacement. You really don't miss the actual pasta with zucchini lasagna just because you have all the other components. You have the cheese, the sauce, the meat. You have everything that makes lasagna delicious. So this is what you want your onions to get to. If you can see, they're getting to that translucent phase. You don't want them burnt. So at this point, I'm gonna add my meat, and I'm not gonna start seasoning it yet. I'm gonna wait until it's cooked a little longer before I season. Alright, once this turns completely brown or gray, before it browns, that's when I'll add my seasoning. I don't want to add seasoning yet because the meat will release a lot of water, a lot of the moisture it has in it, and I don't want that seasoning to evaporate along with the rest of the liquid in the meat. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get this to where I don't see any pink in my meat, and then that's when I'll add my seasoning. I have my own seasoning blend that I made. It's garlic powder, salt, and black pepper. I literally added a cup of garlic powder, a cup of pepper, and 2 cups of salt, and I mixed it together, and this is what I got. It's actually very convenient because I can just add it all together and all my seasonings are in it at once. So we're getting to that point. Another thing I forgot to mention that I like adding to my meat when I'm making lasagna or any meat sauce or pasta is Italian seasoning blend. If you do not have Italian seasoning at home, you can make it yourself. I have dry parsley, dry oregano, dry thyme, and dry, I believe that's it, sorry. Yeah, just dry thyme, dry parsley, and dry basil. Oh, sorry, yeah, dry basil leaves are in here, and dry oregano. And you just mix it all together, and that's your Italian seasoning. I have a feeling I'm missing another one. Once it comes to me, I'll tell you, because I made that blend a few months ago, and my memory isn't all that great anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a teaspoon of my seasoning to my meat, actually 2 teaspoons, and then we'll taste it for salt in a little bit. So I'm just gonna try to get this a little brown. I like my meat browned, so I like it to be well cooked when it's going into my meat sauce. So let's get this going, let's keep this going and get it to where we want it to be. Okay, so since my pot was really hot when I started sauteing and then adding the meat in there, it's already almost fully cooked. Well, it should be fully cooked by this point, but it's not completely browned. It's not crispy, which is what you want. So at this point, I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of my seasoning blend, my Italian seasoning, and I forgot the other 2 ingredients I added to this. So it's all these ingredients are dry. It's dry basil, parsley, sage, oregano, rosemary, and thyme, and a little bit of garlic powder. So I'm gonna add my half teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I'm gonna give it a mix. And I'm just gonna let it come together for about 30-45 seconds. Just as long as you get it well mixed and incorporated. And at this point, I'm gonna add my tomato sauce. The one I have is a tomato basil sauce, which I really like. So I'm gonna add this in here. It's nice and chunky. Well, not chunky, but thick, which I like. And I'm gonna add some water to my jar, because I wanna get every last bit of it out. Ooh. Jesus. Slowly. Give it a shake and pour. I'm gonna add a little more water to the sauce. Just gonna mix it all well. And we're just gonna let it simmer. We're gonna let it simmer for about 10 minutes. Since the sauce is already cooked, there's no need to cook it long. And see, this sauce already has chunks of, actually there's a chunk of garlic. So I'm just gonna let it sit, and we're just gonna, I'm gonna move it to the back burner, and we're gonna let it simmer for, like I said, 10 minutes. Okay, while our meat simmers over there with the sauce, I'm gonna prepare the filling, the ricotta cheese filling for the lasagna. So I'm gonna add, I have a 2-pound container of ricotta. I'm gonna use, because I'm not gonna make a lot. If you're making a large baking dish of lasagna, whether it's pasta or zucchini, you can use a whole can. This is part skim ricotta cheese. So I'm adding, like I said, I'm adding half of the container, which is a pound of ricotta cheese. I'm gonna take a handful of my parsley, which was already washed, and I'm gonna finely dice it. You wanna get it as small as possible so we can get it into our mixture. You can use flat parsley, or you can use, I forget what this one's called, but it looks like little, it's like very curly parsley. I forget the proper name. If you know the name, leave a comment with the name on it. Educate me. So now that my parsley's diced, I'm gonna, or diced, chopped, whichever you like to call it, I'm just gonna throw it in with the mixture. To this, I'm gonna add 1 whole egg. And I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of, oh, actually that was more like 2 tablespoons. You can add as much as you like, of grated parmesan cheese. And you're just gonna mix it. I'm not gonna add any salt to it, because the Parmesan cheese is already salty. If you do not want to add Parmesan cheese, make sure you season the ricotta with, I want to say maybe a tablespoon, depending on how much salt you like. So just make sure you season it so that your cheese has some kind of seasoning in it. If you don't have fresh parsley, you can use dry parsley. Just make sure that it's well mixed so that all the egg is incorporated and you don't have like patches of ricotta mixture with egg and patches without it. And if you don't want to use fresh mozzarella in yours, you can use all of the shredded mozzarella in it. I like the slices of fresh mozzarella. I don't know if you can see, but the meat mixture is already simmering. We're gonna let it simmer for a few more minutes. And I'm gonna slice my mozzarella here. I'm only gonna slice 1 for now, and then if I need some more mozzarella, I'll slice the other one. I get the fresh mozzarella at my local Italian market near my house. I love that place. They have the best of everything. Okay, so I'm gonna give my meat sauce a quick stir. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my pot and I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm gonna let my pot sit there for about 5 to 10 minutes. We wanna let that cool for a little bit just so that it thickens up before we use it in our lasagna. All right, let's assemble our zucchini lasagna. Before you start assembling, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You always want to start with a preheated oven. It'll help speed up your cooking time. You don't want to just turn it on and pop in your lasagna and then it's going to take way longer to cook. So, like I said, I'm making a small dish. So you always want to start with a little bit of the sauce on the bottom and spread it out. This will help your lasagna or your pasta dish, whatever you're making, it'll help it not stick. have my layer of sauce, and I'm gonna start layering my first bed of zucchinis here. Be strategic, use the longer pieces at the bottom, and then I'm gonna do a layer of my ricotta mixture. You can put as much or as little as you like in here. I love cheese, so if I'm putting a lot, mind your business. Just kidding. Just make sure you have enough for all your layers. So I'm gonna leave it like that, and then I'm gonna add some more sauce on top of that cheese. And then just spread it around. Make sure all the zucchinis get some love from the meat sauce. On top of my meat sauce, I'm gonna do my next layer of zucchinis. And you wanna make sure you lay them all out the same way, because when you lay them crisscrossed, sometimes it's very difficult to cut them. Cut the lasagna when you're getting ready to serve it for your family or for yourself, and then you end up with a mess. I'm gonna try to use most of the zucchini that I have here. I'm gonna try to cover every inch of my pan, just because you don't want to waste your zucchinis. I mean, you don't want to waste food, right? I think I have a smaller one here and a piece. Okay. Some more. Since I have a small dish, I'm only gonna be able to get 3 layers in, which is fine for me. Alright. In this layer, I'm gonna use some of the mozzarella that I sliced. And I'm gonna get my meat sauce a little closer so I don't make a mess. In between the layers, you can add the ricotta, add the meat sauce, and then you can add a layer of the shredded mozzarella or the fresh mozzarella if you like. It's whichever one you prefer. Or like me, I like both. So I'm just adding it, and like I said, you want to make sure you cover the entire top of your zucchinis. Alright, so this is where my shredded mozzarella comes in. I'm going to add a layer at the top because I want it to melt in when I put it in the oven. You can put as much or as little as you like, or you could just do another dusting of your Parmesan cheese, and that will work too. My sign is trying to run away from me. Okay, time to pop it into the oven. Okay, I have my small convection oven here preheated already. I'm just gonna put that in there, and I'm gonna bake it for 30 minutes or until the cheese is nice and bubbly at the top. I do have an oven. However, for video purposes, this little oven works a lot better, and I can see my food. So we'll be back in about 30 minutes, and we'll see how the progress of the lasagna is going. Notice I do have a little tray underneath with some foil paper because sometimes the sauce will spill over. This will make it easier for me to clean. Okay, so we'll be back in about half an hour. Okay, it's been 40 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lasagna out of the oven. I can hear it crackling because it did spill onto my foil. And here it is. So So it doesn't matter what kind of lasagna you make, if you're making pasta or if you're making a veggie lasagna, you always want to let it cool before you cut into it. I'm trying to slide this down here because I know it's spilling. But yeah, so you just want to let it rest. I'm going to let it rest for about 10 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and cut into it, and I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. But it looks so good right now. Look at that. Look at all that cheesy goodness in there. You see how some of these corners started to brown already? Layers upon layers. So we will let it rest and we'll cut it in about 10 minutes. All right, our lasagna has rested. I'm gonna go ahead and cut myself a slice. It's nice and gooey and soft. I can tell that the zucchini still has a little bit of a crunch to it, which is good because I don't want soggy zucchini. If you want yours to be fully cooked, you can always bake the zucchini before for about 5 minutes actually before you assemble your lasagna. Help myself here. Oh, got a giant chunk of it. It's not always the prettiest when it comes out. I think you can, serve. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just not the prettiest when it comes out, but it is gonna be the tastiest you've ever had. So go ahead and give it a try. Like I said, it's not the prettiest when it comes out, but it is very tasty.